Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Two quote-unquote never-in-doubt wins for the Celtics as they return home from a really impressive West Coast road trip and then seemingly struggle against two of the worst teams in the league, potentially one of the worst teams of all time. Jake Eisenberg and our New Zealand correspondent Joe are both here. Jake, how's it going, man?
Going good. 25-6. Never in doubt. Easy peasy, man. No stress on this end.
Joe, any doubts creeping in after these two games?
I mean, look, guys, you know me. I'm just gonna have to see it. I'm gonna have to wait to see it till I believe it. You know, fully believe it. Yeah. But it was good fun. It's still good fun. I felt like the games have been really fun lately.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like you say, we've got to wait to see it until we believe it. And like it was tough not to believe in all of it after that really impressive West Coast road trip where aside from the Warriors game where, we've talked about it, I'm not going to unpack that again. The Demons clearly still there, but other than that, a very impressive, I'll stop short of dominant, but an impressive and decisive West Coast road trip there. They come back. Jake, we'll start with you. Like, why did they come back and struggle against these two terrible teams after looking so good all year?
It is funny. There was rational, smart fans that were like, we need to be very concerned about this Pistons game. That was the smart, obvious thing that was going to happen. And then there were the people that were like, guys, this team's amazing. They're going to beat the Pistons by 1,000,000 just like everybody else does. Wrong. And they just didn't try at all. So that I don't even count that. That's not reflective of this team at all. Of all the games to have lost, that would have actually meant the least than the Lakers game, the Warriors game. Win or lose, it actually meant nothing. That's just the Pistons are just a cosmic entity now. They've lost so many games in a row. They're catching teams off guard. They're like Cade's low key playing incredible lately. And then tonight you're missing 3 of your top 6, and you still win. When the Raptors shot pretty well from 3 and have at least some talent. Anytime you can get a win when you're missing 3 of the top 6 on this particular team, hey, we'll take it.
Yeah,
Joe?
I kind of feel similarly about the Pistons game. It was just every Pistons game now is just a really weird game for every team with the with the streak thing. It is something more comforting about coming from behind than like losing it from ahead, I feel way better about the Pistons game in some ways than today's game.
Okay.
So we have beware the early lead, but we don't suffer from beware the early deficit. That's the problem when you're right.
That's
Joe.
right. That's right. But do not beware the. Well, that's the thing. The opposite of beware the early lead is, don't worry too much about the early deficit.
I like this team down a little bit. That's the great spot for this team to be in.
Right.
I was unsure what we were going to get coming out of that Pistons game in the third quarter, but this team down 7 going into a fourth quarter. I like what they can do in that spot. We're probably gonna have to deal with some crunch time stuff, which has been pretty good lately, but up 12. I've got bad memories, but
Yeah.
Oh, you kind of knew it was going to happen. There's too much bucket trading. Whenever you start trading buckets, eventually the wheels always fall off. They do. Yeah.
It's the NBA as well. It's just you keep your eye on every scoreboard today. It's just big lead disappear. Other team has a big lead. It is kind of the nature of it. But hey, man, 2-0.
Totally. It is amazing how much the trauma of Celtics seasons past have come back to haunt us already as fans, as anxious fans. Unfortunately, the results have been different this year, and yet during the course of the game, and if you're joining us on Celtics blog playback, which has been absolutely popping off, mostly courtesy of Jake Eisenberg, who's running the whole thing there. You can see it throughout the course of the game where the stress and the anxiety is there, and that's why it's so fun to join and watch as part of those stream watch parties, because we can kind of suffer through it together. But the outcomes are different, and the streams are ending with these happy vibes and wrap ups again. Courtesy of Jake, because we're somehow actually winning these games compared to years past.
I'll take some credit for it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've done a great job over there, so we've got to give you your flowers. But yeah, I would write these off as non-alarming close calls, right? In that this is becoming a trope this season, but old Celtics teams would have found a way to lose these games, and yet this new Celtics team continues to find new ways to win games that are uncharacteristic of Celtics teams past. And I've said this probably once a week on the show since the season started, but I still can't quite fall into the groove of that. I'm still not quite used to that being the case for the season. So it continues to be a thrill each time you're like, oh, they're amazing. And now when we get into crunch time, the comfort, the just inherent comfort of Derrick White will win this game for us. I'm so confident in Derrick White down the stretch, just winning a game. We'll get to Derrick White in depth a little bit later. But I do have to say, because I forgot to run these calls to action off the top, while you're here or if you're listening to the podcast later, please subscribe to the First of the Floor YouTube channel. Again, join the Celtics blog playback room. That's playback.tv/Celtics blog. We recorded on our YouTube channel, First of the Floor, a new underrated plays of the week video earlier today that's going to be edited and then published first thing tomorrow morning. So you've got to subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications to make sure you get that, because the first one was really well received and we're going to keep pumping these out. So make sure you subscribe to our channel there. Other reasons why this game was difficult, guys, just to move on here.
Sure.
What about there were two of them. One early in the game that I caught before I was watching the second half of the game while mowing my lawn. Two blatantly missed goaltends. Derrick White, presence of mind, he sees Scotty Barnes there and knows to just throw it up on the backboard to elicit the goaltend. That precisely happens and the referee misses it. That's one. What else made this game difficult, guys?
How is that not a reviewable play at this point?
Yeah.
I understand, the other one where it was it was definitely a goaltend, but it's just the trajectory of the ball has to be on the way down. I understand not reviewing that one. But
Are we talking about the Drew Holiday one? Or
yeah,
right.
Yeah, the Drew Holiday one. But the ones where it's on the backboard, they should just review those, and it should be 2s and 3s. They should just review those easily. That should just be, I don't know what they're doing there. But the refs were terrible all night. I'm very rarely a refs guy, as everybody listening to this knows. But today I thought the refs were bad overall, but specifically in favor of the Raptors. So the soft calls just were not coming both ways. I didn't think. And that was very frustrating. But the big obvious one was the turnovers. 22-4 in points off turnovers, and I think we felt that a little bit without Tatum, Al, and Porzingis, just because the floor wasn't as spaced. There's not as many threats on the floor without those three guys, obviously, and so you're asking Jaylen in particular to run a lot of the show, and he did incredible in the first half, but has 5 turnovers in the second half as the Raptors went to a switch everything defense. And that just means you more or less have to ISO a lot more. And they've got some good individual perimeter defenders like OG and Siakam and Scotty Barnes. And we got into trouble. And that was the reason it wasn't an actual blowout.
I mean, the seeds of the turnover thing were planted in the first half, man. There were some shockers. And Drew Holiday, he better watch out.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, yeah. I mean, look, brings a lot to the table, man. But gee, that guy does some shocking things out there, right? He makes some bad calls, and I don't like him urinating all over himself on the free throw line. But
oh man, again, dude.
Yeah.
But that aside, it was a fun game. I mean, I'm kind of trying to hedge against I feel like I don't think I'm not on the podcast that much, so you'd have to be a very dedicated listener to know my perspective. But I'm generally a bit of a Grinch on the Celtics and particularly on JB, poor old JB. So I feel like I'm almost like watching over his shoulder while he's trying to type. And you can't type when people are watching over your shoulders. I feel like I'm that for poor old JB. And every time I'm watching him, he's doing something dumb. I'm like, oh man, it's not it's probably way better when I'm not looking. But the reason I'm trying to hedge against it is because I'm actually still a real fan. I love it when JB does a sick dunk, and makes that mean finish again through contact, but yeah, man, some of those turnovers they're rough. They're rough. They're schoolboy stuff.
It felt like he got too much back into his old self a little bit there, where he's been having a lot of success running like certain lineups on his own, and playmaker Jaylen is becoming a thing. And it just felt like he got a little too big for his boots in this one, and maybe got a little bit too comfortable. There are a few like too many dribble sizing up his defender moves where like I think the new Jaylen would have made a move more quickly, whether it was to drive or to move the ball or whatever it may be. And it just felt he got a little too stuck in his old ways in this game. But again, like these aren't alarming losses, and I'm not overly alarmed by Jaylen sort of backpedaling a little bit there in his progression, because I think there's been enough sample size now to show that like ultimately he has changed as a player. He just had a bad day at the office.
No,
and yet still dominated the game in many stretches, I have to say.
Yeah. Like it's hard to replace like the scoring. I've been thinking a lot about JB because I know something's coming up on the run sheet, but an analogy I'd like to make about JB. Okay, JB's kind of like, and I couldn't think of an actual real world analog for this, but he's like a guitarist who's like sick at solos, like just shreds. Just absolutely shreds. Just Yngwie Malmsteen or Joe Satriani for those guitar nerds out there. But like, you don't really want him playing rhythm. Like he just don't have it, man. Like he's incredible. He can do things that are very rare, in terms of like the top end of ability everyone wants to do. But some really important stuff, he's just not gonna be good at. And that's okay, like as a player, like I can accept that. But anyway, so Jaylen, lead guitarist, like he's there for the solos, but not so much for the jink,
beads of sweat dripping into the guitar, short circuiting the wiring.
Yeah, all of that feedback, up against the amp, all of that. But like
Jake,
when I need that solid groove laid down, I'm not sure JB's my guy. I know who is my guy. Derrick White's my guy. Right? Derrick White is my guy when I need that groove laid down.
You look, and I do think
Noodler's exactly right.
Apparently, Efrain Ramos in the chat here, Celtics Twitter OG, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here. But a lot of this, and look, as someone that played the cello from ages 6 to 11, and then the drums from ages 12 to 14, both of which I was very poor at. Rhythm, not something I ever had either. So maybe I'm more of a JB than a Derrick White. But I think a lot of this was just to do with role, and we saw Jaylen being asked to do more than he's supposed to. I do think there's value in giving him a game like today, though. And again, I do think the Raptors came out second half and adjusted really well. First half, they were playing a lot of drop coverage with Pirtle, and first three Jaylen had came off a flare screen, another catch and shoot in the corner, getting downhill with OG trying to get over a screen. He was just launching into the chest of Pirtle, playmaking really nicely. But then they start, as soon as they go to that switch everything defense, it took them a while. And then, honestly, they never really got going again in the second half at all. And that, again, that's purely the personnel on this team. Like, sure. As good as Derrick White is, as good as Jaylen is, even Drew, none of those guys are elite cracker guys off the dribble when there's not really good spacing. Like when there's Cornet and when there's Queta out there, there's no shooter. Their floors just shrunk a little bit more, and they went to a no big. Pirtle didn't barely played, especially late, and so you're just asking Jaylen to ISO. So I'm trying to think of the analogy here. It was like we asked Jaylen to play the rhythm thing mid-show because, old mate had dehydration. He was in he's like, Taylor Swift-esque show. It was really hot, and he had to try and fill in. He did his best. They still got the win. Everybody left happy, but there are a few moments there where it's like, oof, definitely not his role, but
It was like asking the guitarist from Pantera to fill in for Steely Dan. Just like a different skill set, just completely unqualified. But
exactly.
The switch everything defense, like you said, Jake, from the Raptors was almost a game. It was a game changer in that it like literally changed the game and almost ruined the lives of all of us. Nathaniel chiming in with a very productive statement there. Thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just incorrect, Nathaniel. But thank you for your engagement. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
So again, I keep going back to it being like these being non-alarming close calls, in that the lack of personnel. You mentioned, Jake, not having someone who can crack, switch everything defense off the dribble, and yet still finding a way to win. If either of these games were against an NBA team just one tier above either of these teams, they're potentially both losses just due to the lack of personnel. Tatum's clearly got an ankle thing that he's like kind of able to play through, but he's also needing to take time off to deal with. And yet, because these are bottom tier teams, we're able to find ways to win, which continues to be the theme of this podcast and of this season thus far. We talked about Jaylen Brown, who, by the way, just the first quarter alone, when this looked like it was going to be an absolute blowout and I was going to be able to turn it off and go mow my lawn without keeping an eye on the game. 15, 5, and 3 after the first quarter, including like back-to-back threes, just coming back
craziness.
after the LeBron ninja kick to the spine and just being like, I'm completely fine, bro. Everything's completely fine. Another sick dunk in this game as well, just adding to the dunk catalog for this season.
It's ridiculous this season. He's got like a career's worth of posters, like a third of the way through the season. It's unreal.
Does a lot of dunks. It's pretty cool.
It's
Can
cool.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the game, from an enjoyment perspective, is that simple. Like,
Fun.
boom,
Let's have some
shakalaka. Yeah.
Yeah.
But can we, Jake, just officially transition into the Derrick White section of this podcast and just spend like a solid 10 minutes propping this guy up?
Man.
Because like we do it time and time again, literally episode to episode, we prop up Derrick White because he just continues to amaze us. And in this game, it made me realize that he came to the Celtics with this reputation of just being solid and being this connective tissue and, being this guy who could help the Jays be better versions of themselves. And there are moments, and in this game in particular, and the Pistons game, where I feel like he's showing us that his reputation is deserving of more than that, and he's actually someone who can win games in crunch time and be a bit of like a hero in crunch time, take the big shots and make them and execute on all levels, offensively and defensively. Like, he's just exceeded expectations time and time again, to the point where we're literally revisiting this episode to episode. So, Jake, you're the world's leading expert on Derrick White, so I throw to you, good sir.
Thank you. Look, it is getting difficult to find what's the new Derrick White angle, because we've covered how good he is in so many different ways, but the new one is Derrick White in crunch time, and like just starting with today, 3.5 minutes to go, Celtics down 2. Drew Holiday throws Derrick White a grenade that he should have taken. Derrick White has
And hey, that's the thing about Drew. That's what I'm getting at, man. He's throwing a lot of grenades right now. But anyway, this is Derrick White Love Fest. Keep going.
and in the second play you saw there, and if you're not watching on YouTube, you can go check it out. But it's Derrick White getting downhill. Just like, that's the thing with the switching defense. As they switch, Derrick White does a really good job here. They kind of screw it up, but he doesn't. And they've taken Pirtle out. That's the key to him being able to do that as well, is he knows that there's no rim protector. But even still, he's going at Scotty Barnes, Siakam. Like, these guys are big dudes. And he finds the weakest spot, which is Jaylen McDaniels, one of the better theoretical players in the NBA, far inferior to his brother, Jaden McDaniels, who is an elite defender, not Jaylen McDaniels. And Derrick White gets to the rim. It's just, he goes 2 for 6 in the fourth quarter. Ironically, like, Derrick was 5 for 19 in this game. Had the 3 turnovers, but, he had 7 assists. So you're not really worried about the assist to turnover there. But he, in the clutch this season, has been just absurd. We obviously had the Pistons game as well. Monster 3 from the top of the key. Ridiculous and 1 in overtime. But I went back and had a look at the clutch stats for the Celtics. And Derrick White in the clutch, which I would like to expand it, but this is within 5 points in the last 5 minutes of a game. 10 for 18 from the field. That's 55.6%. 7 for 14 from 3. shooting 50% from 3 on 14 attempts, also 10 for 10 from the free throw line. Joe, I know you'll love that. And also zero turnovers. 0 turnovers, 10 from 10 from the line is just an absurd nails every single night. For context, though, like JB, 11 for 21, 52%. KP, 10 for 16, 62.5%. Absurd. I'm hesitant to even read this one because I'm not sure I should put it out in the world, but JT, 8 for 26, 30.8%. And so that's not good. But everybody else
has the weight of the world on his shoulders, man. Like
heavy as the head that wears the crown.
Yeah. But Derrick White, man, in the clutch has been like just from day one. The Raptors game, in-season tournament game, corner 3, wide open, every night, whether it's actually within crunch time or not, he is making huge plays in the fourth quarter. The Derrick White-Porzingis pick and roll, that is going to be, and at least should be, and it's going to be somewhat political whether or not we get to it enough in crunch time, our best two-man game. I think in the crunch time, followed closely by Tatum Porzingis as well. But Derrick White in the pick and roll with Porzingis, I don't have the numbers in front of me today, but we'll get those for next time. That has been ridiculous. And then they can play make out of that, and then you have Jaylen and Jason attacking the manipulated defense. And when they're attacking defenses that are scrambled, it's just like good luck. And Derrick White is the answer to it all, it feels like, which is crazy.
I think, like, you know, we've all probably seen the JJ Redick kind of soliloquy, right? And
Indeed.
he's going through all these stats, like he's like number one, or like can't remember what the numbers are. It's like he's number one in points per direct screen and number one in points per touch. I'm like, these are arguments for why he should be our lead initiator, right? Like, this is, to me, this is the change the Celtics have to make. We have to recognize he's the dude, right? Like, he doesn't look like he doesn't have the profile of someone who should be. He is. He's the guy. He gets downhill most reliably. He's our best decision maker. Look, man, he can create disadvantages or create advantages for us, right? That Jaylen and Jason are way better at attacking, you know. But he's the best guy at creating those advantages for us. I just think like he's number one in points for direct screen. He should be having the ball all the time in crunch time. It's just as simple as that. He's the best decision maker. It's the best result for the Celtics. The other guys have got to be secondary. That's my view, and I'm sticking to it.
I don't disagree.
And I don't miss Marcus Smart.
I just think we need to keep that to ourselves. Like that's a tough one as far as, you know, the Marcus Smart situation. It's complicated. It's a complicated thing that any even short-term Celtics fan will understand. But so Joe, on the Derrick White being the guy thing, I don't disagree with you at all. I feel exactly the same way. However, you have to imagine within the team, there's a political issue there, a boundary, if you will, in terms of completely committing to that, because you've got guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum who are quote-unquote the guys as well, and particularly in Tatum's case from a play-initiating standpoint in the clutch and throughout the course of a game, rightfully to some degree believes himself to be that guy, and many would argue that he is rightfully that guy. So how do you navigate that, Joe?
I don't know, man. I'm not the coach. I just sit having my takes, man.
You're the correspondent for an entire nation. We need better takes.
I will say, like, I went back and watched a bunch of the Derrick White crunch time stuff. I've got a video coming out on Twitter tomorrow, just like 2 minutes of Derrick White nails, and it's a great video because all the commentary and the crowd reactions are all from huge moments, both home, away, national broadcast. It's beautiful. Gorman, Breen, everyone. It's truly beautiful. But Tatum is very involved in a lot of them. And a lot of the catch and shoot opportunities that Derrick White is turning into just like deadly knockdown catch and shoot guy. And what Tatum has is the ability to post up and draw a lot of help. And like in the Pistons game, he has, and now we're kind of jumping ahead here or whatever, it doesn't matter. 31 points on 31 shots, obviously bad. But team high, or 10 assists, which is incredible. And the amount of attention that he does draw, and especially when you get to the playoffs, like today, I mean, the Raptors are kind of like a shitty version of the Heat. But a team that can switch everything in theory is like tough, smart, can make your offense grind down. Tatum is going to be is still better, I think, like able to kind of beat guys one-on-one. And Derrick White can do it, obviously, but I think there's definitely a balance to it when the Heat go to switch everything. When the Heat go to switch everything, that's where Porzingis comes in, because he's been just like historically good in posting up smaller guys right now. So I don't think it's a absolute Derrick White has to be the guy every single time, but I do agree that there needs to be a redistribution of how we approach the crunch time possessions, and Tatum's need to go down because his efficiency is going to go way up. It's just exactly what's going to happen. But I do want to emphasize that a lot of why these numbers look really good is because Derrick White's just being found by Tatum and Jaylen at times as well.
Yeah, we should really emphasize that to avoid being cancelled, like in the Celtics sphere. Like Jason Tatum is the better player, obviously, and it's an absolute embarrassment of riches to be having these discussions, and really, like you said, like a lot of it is the fact that Derrick White is sharing the rock and the court with Jason Tatum and vice versa. There's a really good comment here from Efren Ramos in the chat. We are in the 99th percentile as far as how well a smart trade could have worked out. The return has given us a fun, fresh Celtics team, and he was sent to a franchise that could desperately use him. And they've been great since Ja Morant's been back as well, and Smart's had some good moments there. So hopefully it works out well for both parties, and we'll see Marcus Smart in the Garden fairly soon. I suppose we need to move on from the Derrick White talk, and I should have asked this as a leading question, given everything we've just talked about with Jaylen Brown and Derrick White, but I'll ask this in two parts. First, in the vacuum of this game, because I think that's more of a fair question, but also broadly speaking as well, who is better at leading their own bench lineup? Is it Derrick White, or is it current day Jaylen Brown?
Oh, come on. Don't even.
Jaylen had some good moments with his lineup. Joe's hung up the phone.
I mean,
Jaylen had some good moments with his lineup.
He did. Like Jalen's he's a very good NBA player, but he has some flaws that limit what he can do in given roles, in my view. It's just like lead guitarist, man. Lead guitarist needs a band around him. But anyway, sorry, Jake.
No.
You're much more of an impartial observer, almost, I feel, at this point, than me. I'm just. Oh, man.
Yeah. I do think you need to embrace this new Jaylen Brown. Like, he has legitimately made a mental shift in trying to make the right play. And today he was overtasked, which is why the turnovers end up ticking up. But this comment from Mason Nara is good here. Like, D Wade is great, obviously. But he is right. The fourth best defender is often on Derrick White. And that was like almost, and I don't think that would happen to Derrick White this year, but in the Heat series, this is when we needed this version of D White, this like super aggressive guy, because he always had Max Strus on him, and he didn't even like really start taking him, trying to crack him off the dribble until like the third quarter of Game 7 when Tatum was injured and Jaylen was like a lost cause at that point, and that needed to happen from like day dot. And that's what's incredible about this team is that the resources that are being assigned to certain guys, like part of that, the reason that D White got that last layup today. Jalen McDaniels is the one guarding D White, and you've got Anunoby, the best, like one of the best defenders in the NBA, on Jaylen Brown in the corner, and that's part of the equation as well. Man, Jalen's been a lot better at running his own bench unit. But that being said, I would lean D White. It also depends on the type of team you're playing. Like, I think if there's like some like weak perimeter defenders. And man, Jaylen Brown, like when he's having a first quarter, like Derek doesn't have this ceiling of a 30-point first half on like 14 shots. I say that, I feel like he's probably done it this season.
Yeah. No, you're right. But okay, but this is the thing. I don't think basketball teams need that as much as we think they do. Like, I think basketball teams need, like, this is a guiding principle for me. low variance offense. Basketball teams need low variance offense. Derrick White is a brilliant decision maker, and that results in lower variance offense, and I love it. So that's for me what it comes down to. He can't do the cool stuff that Jaylen can do, you know. It obviously matters what Jaylen can do.
So you gotta live a little, Joe. See, here's the thing: the low variance offense is also, you're limiting your upside. I think low risk, and obviously not low reward when it comes to Derrick White, but you might have a 5 turnover quarter from Jaylen, but you're also able to get a 20 point, and also the way that Jaylen does it, the energy. Dare I say, the way he can shift the energy. Jaylen Brown, like the pull-up threes, dunking on people, like the way he's able to enforce his physicality on an opposing defense it's like star-level stuff. And I think that you can feel that. And not that Derrick White doesn't have the ability to do it to the crowd too, but I think there's an element to like the way that Jaylen Brown can just like blow a game apart.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is almost like a shot clock question. I you know what I mean? Like for the first, honestly, 19 seconds of the shot clock, I think I probably want Derrick White on the ball like every time. But you're right that the physicality, and Jaylen he's such a balanced athlete. This is the thing I love the most about him. He can really finish, and he can really get to the rim when his mind's on that. And that's obviously exceptionally valuable. I'm honestly, I'm trying to restrain my contrarian kind of.
No, it's all good radio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
I feel like of the two, Jaylen, it has a better sense of when, just to fall back on this again, when an energy shift is required. Like he's more in tune as far as that of the team needs. And in this first quarter of this game, where it was kind of, I don't know, fluctuating a little bit. And the Raps were, they weren't looking like the better team, but they were in the game to some degree. And then Jaylen hits 3 straight threes. He has that insane finish. I want to say it was over. I can't remember who it was over, but he just took crazy body contact and still finished the layup. And then still got up and got back on in transition. And he was just he was giving everything of himself to the game as far as energy, and the crowd were feeding off that, and the team went up big time. I don't know if Derrick White is capable of that much of an energy injection into the game. He's kind of more of an index stock, and Jaylen Brown is GameStop, just get in low and bullish on that and ride it straight to the moon, right? I hope I'm using that terminology correctly.
That's good stuff, man.
How'd that work out for you, Ben?
Not well. I'm always late to the party. I'm an index stock guy, right? I want to retire at 60. That's where I'm at. So I'm not fit for the same feats as Jaylen Brown. Clearly, I'm more of a Derrick White in my heart. Anyway, I digress. So I guess it comes back to, like we talked about with Tatum and White, it's a luxury to even be asking the question as far as who is better at running their own lineup. And they both had great moments in this game. We are going to stop now for a quick word from our sponsor. And when we get back, we're going to crack open the Queta Luke Kornet debate.
Oh, here we go.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I would take the Celtics over the Spurs on New Year's Eve. Jake, can you one-up me there?
Hey, that's a good one. I like this.
Easy money.
I guess it's New Year's Eve, so it's not. They won't be drunk / hungover yet. That does actually make me concerned about the Thunder game. Just thinking about that. Anyway, Pistons Raptors tomorrow. So Raptors coming off obviously the game today, back to back at Detroit. So they're flying from Boston to Detroit. Detroit's hungry, man. They want it. They want one. I don't think Toronto's very good. Clearly, they lost to the non-Tatum, Horford, KP Celtics. They're 7 games below 500. Just take Pistons plus 4.5. They don't even have to win. That's actually a nice little buffer for you. Maybe sprinkle a little bit on the money line. Maybe 1 unit on the plus 4.5 and 0.25 units on the money line. But
I have no idea what we're talking about.
yeah, that's right. We can move
DJ
on.
in the chat. Don't fall for it, Jake. Gamble responsibly, of course, no matter where you are in the world and what betting platform you use. But shout out to our sponsor, FanDuel. Now we're gonna crack open the Neemias Queta, Luke Kornet debate. It's high time to do this, right? Because Luke Kornet comes back in this game, is teasing his career high. I was calling him Liquid Luke early in the game. He was diving on the floor, saving the ball, getting it out to... he dived on the Raps baseline, saved the ball, got it out to Drew Holiday for a transition bucket. He had a great kick-out assist to O'Shea Brissett for a corner three. Multiple fucking sick alley-oops. The offensive rebound, put back, and one in the first. And then basically the game-winning bucket from a Jaylen Brown lob. Maybe very lucky not to get a charge call there from Scotty Barnes, who was pretty well positioned. Jake's waving me off. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's regardless. Like Luke Cornet caught the lob and finished it, and not known for his solid hands. So great play from Cornet there. Queta, didn't see as much from Queta in this game. When we saw him in the Pistons game, not nearly as impressive as he has been in recent games prior. Jake, I know you've been particularly passionate on the sort of like I won't say the Queta hate train, but just like the sort of passive aggressive, maybe we shouldn't be seeing as much Queta as we've been seeing lately. Luke Kornet comes back soaring today with a very impressive game. So where are you at now with these two?
I have gotten a little taste of what it's like to be negative and snarky as far as engagement goes, because negative and snarkiness definitely sells when it comes to likes and clicks. But Luke Kornet has been really solid all year long, and then Queta comes in, has a couple of good games, but like with very, very, very clear flaws, and everyone's like, give me Queta over Kornet. And I'm like, you guys are insane. Like Kornet. God, I'm going to get your thoughts on this, Joe, but he's a low variance guy. He's in the right spots. He's not going to, be on all defense team or anything like that, but he's positionally sound on defense. He had a little trouble switching onto Schroeder late, but, that's a third string center for you. Offensively, he sets really good screens. He rolls to the right spots. He's there for all the alley-oops. He's got really soft hands. He makes all his free throws. He is really good at the free throw line, which is really important for a big man. I mean, today, 33 minutes, that's big. I think that's actually why he didn't play yesterday, coming off the adductor injury. They knew that they would have no KP and no Al. They didn't want to load Cornet up 2 nights in a row. That's my theory. 28, 3 blocks, 5 of them offensive rebounds. And it may be the most important stat of them all, when you've got no KP now, 3 fouls. No foul trouble at all when you've got no other options at the big man spot. He heard the noise. He's heard this two-way guy, the first Portuguese player in NBA history, coming for his mortgage. He already lost his mortgage on the IST. He was like, I'm not losing the rest of this contract. I'm coming out. I'm playing team ball. Cornet, the Cornish game hand. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Queta's been part of a lineup that shall not be named, and he hasn't done very well on it. And it's because he's Gumby. He's just Gumby AF, man. Like,
he's the Portuguese tart, is what I believe his nickname should be.
I was thinking, okay, this is.
Tasty.
I don't want to scoot like a future segment too much, but we've been thinking a little bit about names. We had Derrick and the Whites, which was a very good lineup. Anyway, I was just thinking, because we keep like with Luke Cornet, there's so many options, right? And I thought, what's Luke's band name? And it's obvious, right? It's just Corn. It's just Corn. And then I was like, what? No, that's just too obvious. And then I was like, what's the best Corn song? And so, oh yeah, Freak on a Leash. And I love that. I love the idea of Luke Cornet's nickname being Freak on a Leash, because he gets a quick hook when the big guys are in. Anyway.
Oh, man.
Quick translation on Gumby. Can we get that one?
Gumby is just uncoordinated.
Yeah. Long, Gumby, big, wacky,
lanky.
inflatable. Yeah, kind of guy. But honestly, and I agree that we should keep playing Queta, because I think it's good to see if we can develop him. But when we're trying to actually win games, I think like in these back-to-backs where I don't think we should play either KP nor Al, and we run Cornet and Queta, I think he should play. If someone's out, Queta should play. But, the double big lineup with Queta and anyone, no. Cannot. And Joe went to that too much in the Pistons game. That was no bueno. But yeah, the Queta hype got way out of control. And I understand the thing with Luke is like, do you guys know the joke Shamit face from the Russillo and Simmons pod? Mm-hmm. Like someone on Twitter replied to me today, is like, he's just like the center version of Shamit face. Everybody thinks he's bad because of the way that he looks, but he's legit he's as a third big. And I'm sorry, DJ Daniel, I don't agree with you. If they can upgrade him for free, basically, I would do it. I wouldn't assign real resources to upgrading the Luke Kornet position. I think he's been really good, man, and he was a huge reason why they won today.
Is it fair to say that Luke Kornet is to Neemias Queta as Derrick White is to Jaylen Brown? Is a scaled down version in that, like, Derrick White might be better over the course of a game as far as like chipping away and hitting singles, to borrow the Brad Stevens parlance, and that
Michael Bevan.
Thank you. Yes. Well, Michael Bevan hit clutch game-winning fours for a stretch there in the 90s, but I digress. Luke Kornet, probably better, more solid throughout the course of a game, a better fundamental player and a better fit schematically with the Celtics, but Neemias Queta will have exhilarating, offensive rebounds and putbacks and plays where you get ridiculously, maybe unreasonably excited about, his
off his own
long-term
misses.
fit.
Off his own misses. Important to note. It still counts. So maybe, yes, the way that he blocked some shots in the West Coast road trip, I get trying to like see if like you could ride the hot hand there. The thing is, in that position, all we need is a low variance solid option. All we need is for someone to not make mistakes. This team is so good. This team is so ridiculously good that all we need is the third big to come in and play 8 to 9 minutes and just not make mistakes, and you win every game. Yeah, like literally just... And dude, Luke Kornet makes such good decisions. You guys are going to make me put together a freaking Luke Kornet fast decision video, and
That's our
I'll
angle.
do it. Yeah. Don't tempt me. But like he catches the ball, he throws it out to Pritchard, he runs and sets a screen. He knows where to be. He plays quick. Queta's still figuring it out, and that's fine. He hasn't got a lot of reps. What we need to get these W's is Cornet. And someone asking me in the chat here, do you trust Luke in the playoffs? The Miami Heat made the finals with Cody Zeller as their backup big man behind Bam Adebayo.
Mm-hmm.
Former number 4 pick in the draft, Cody Zeller.
Yeah. Cody Zeller, honestly underrated player. But if we lose KP or Al, that's a problem. That's a huge problem, obviously. But you can get away with it. Really, you can. But we're screwed. Like if we lose KP or Al, like that's just a huge loss, regardless. And and no matter who you trade for, unless you invest real resources in getting like basically an actual backup big man, not like a third big man, then you're going to be in the same place with like Bring and Drummond, for example.
Again,
I like Cornet, man. Speedy up here.
Yeah.
Just a solid dude. I do believe we've got some Cornet post-game interview in this that we should get to, because solid dude, a great interview, and whenever he plays to a level where he can get himself to the podium, it's always a good watch.
You talked before about how your perspective switched to the point where you don't care about your minutes, your personal role, anything like that, and how you kind of decided that yourself. How did you get to that point, and how has it impacted you as a player?
I mean, I do feel like I thought I was there like earlier in my life and in my career, but I mean, frankly, I feel like it was like quite a bit of suffering that I had in my career that kind of opened it up, where you just realize playing for yourself, then when it wasn't going well, like it was kind of all then about yourself as well. And I don't know, just doing anything for yourself is not a very high or fulfilling goal, I feel like, to do it. And I also think just part of where I was in my life as like a husband and father and stuff like that definitely helped shape things in terms of realizing like the best things I feel about in my life are the things that I'm actually doing for other people.
An
So-
introspective Cornet.
Yeah, I'm like legit passionate about this all of us this Luke Cornet stuff apparently, but like Jaylen came out and said that he's an incredible teammate. I know the CLNS guys on the Garden Report, one of their favorite jokes is how Luke Cornet brought lemon squares into the thing and for the media and for the players. Like, he's legitimately like a really, really great teammate, and he makes them laugh when maybe they don't want to. And for a guy like he shot a lot of threes like to start his career. He's gone through like basically being out of the league, being salary filler, and Brad Stevens really revived his career and putting him in this situation. And like, yeah, I and also just for everybody to listen to a guy that's like on the fringes of the NBA, talking about teammates and family and that kind of stuff. I think that's like some of the coolest parts of following an NBA team are these role players that come in and have big games like this. Like, this is very Blake Griffin-esque. Like what Blake Griffin did for us last year. Talked about a lot about the vibes, but he came in and had games like this against the Sixers. And also, by the way, Luke was part of that too, where there's no Al and there was no KP last year. But you come out and you really impact winning and help the Celtics get to a place where they're on track for 66 wins right now.
I've had that in my life, like what he's talking about. Where you sort of realize, like, it feels like there's a lot of pressure if you're like an Ayn Randish type character that's supposed to bend the world to your will, right? And there's this like almost inevitable failure that comes along with it, and there's a freedom that comes with it, accepting I guess your limitations and accepting like I don't know, to use a phrase, like bloom where you're planted, right? Like Kornet's been planted in this role, and he's a bloomin'.
Still wouldn't mind if he just chucked up a couple of threes again. Like, there was at least one possession where it felt like it was within the rhythm of the offense for him to shoot a three, but it's just clearly like beyond what is being asked of him. And I suppose, like, to use the like bloom where you're planted phrase, like he might have been like, lifted out of his initial planter box and planted elsewhere where threes are no longer permitted. But it's interesting in this podcast, right? Like, we're talking about this embarrassment of riches, this luxury of asking these questions. Who are we better off with in certain situations? Jaylen Brown or Derrick White, Jason Tatum or Derrick White, Neemias Queta or Luke Kornet. And at some point, you need to start talking about the coaching and the leadership around this team. And it's started to become more of a mainstream part of the conversation. Like, Joe Mazzulla is getting these guys to play the right way. And Joe, just not to put you, on the spot here, but I know that that you've been at times a detractor of Joe Mazzulla, and you're not alone there. He's had his legions of detractors, but are you starting to turn a corner in terms of your perception of Joe Mazzulla? And like, he clearly has this team playing, like, he's a coach of the year candidate, like, unquestionably, and he's got the team playing in a way that we talk about all the time, like, we almost don't recognize as far as how they're able to close out games and distance themselves from their notable characteristics of seasons past. And then he's got, end of the bench role players playing well above their capacity, at least from what we've known of them, again, in seasons past. Are you starting to turn the corner on your perception of Joe Mazzulla based on all of the above?
I think I'll answer this probably a little bit more obliquely than I should. It's regular season, man. It's all downside for the Celtics. There's nothing they can, like, they're going to be a really great team. Obviously, they're going to probably win 60 games. It's great. It's awesome. I love it as a fan. But we're just kind of waiting for the real games, the real season to start, and then we'll see. Then we'll see whether the habits have been built or not. It's all TBC for me. And like, I know that's a real down buzz answer, but I'm enjoying the season. I recognize a lot of the old Celtics, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, look, hey, it's nice to avoid defeat in like these last two games. It's a lot better winning by 2 points than losing by 2 to those teams. So, yippee. That's more fun for me as a fan. But yeah, Look, man, we just it's unfortunately the Celtics have been knocking on the door for so long that the only thing they have left to prove is that they can walk through that door, and the only thing that proves they can walk through the door is actually walking through the door, right? So that's just kind of where I'm at, and that's a kind of an evergreen kind of take. I'm enjoying the season though. It's a good season.
Yeah, I mean that's the hard part about this season. Really, is that it's like how much can you extrapolate this into the playoffs? Because Joe struggled in the playoffs in every series. Quinn Snyder, Doc Rivers, Eric Spoelstra, absolutely made mistakes along the way. I think it's pretty clear that he's grown, and a lot of that's to do with obviously having an off season, bringing in Cassell, Charles Lee, like the coaching staff's not decimated, but also the talent upgrade. Like the Porzingis thing is legit, but he is clearly trying new things. Like the post up frequency on this team is completely different. The approach in crunch time has been different, minus a couple of games here and there. But even going back and watching the Warriors game when I'm not freaking out so much, they did get a lot of good looks. Tatum missed at the rim, Jaylen missed at the rim. Like they just they got to make shots. But as far as Missoula goes, all you can really ask for, I think, as a coach, outside of like really obvious X's and O stuff, is you need buy-in. You want buy-in across the board, and I don't think that's just Missoula, because you've got really real leaders on this team. But Missoula today, and we can jump ahead a little bit here, but Missoula today, when asked by Abby, like, these two wins, you could have just kind of let them go. And really, especially the Pistons game, no chance we win that game last year. And I've been someone all season long that's pushed back against we lose this game last season, because we won 57 games last year. We won a lot of tough games. We won some close games. But now we're at a point where we're on pace for 66, and we're kind of past the 21-5 start. We've won some games into this next stretch here. And Joe goes, this is who we are. This is the mentality that the team has bought into, is things are not going to go perfect every game. You have to be open-minded and to win games different ways. And I can really feel his philosophy starting to kind of be imprinted on this team. Jaylen Brown spoke a lot about it today. Joe's really trying to get everybody to really think the game. And I feel like I can see growth as the games are progressing. And, Jaylen really struggled to start the season with a new role. And you can see him buying in with his, new mentality. Drew Holiday, new role, buying in. Tatum kind of feels like the last piece of the puzzle here. And we'll see when we get the elite top 5 version of Tatum. Because once that happens, then,
it's inevitable. Yeah. It will happen. I won't guarantee it because, how much can I really guarantee anything given my vantage point? But I'm pretty confident that top 5 Tatum will happen at some point, and that'll be the final piece of the puzzle. But yeah, you can be an objectively bad coach, a la Doc Rivers, and if you have buy-in top to bottom, like, it means almost more than anything else. And yeah, talent. Getting back to that Doc Rivers Celtics team, KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, talent is huge. But suddenly here we are, and we have that again. We have that level of talent and seemingly that level of buy-in. And to me, that's what's different about years past, including the Ime year, which is maybe a little bit of a segue because we've got some Schadenfreude report to get to regarding the Rockets. But guys, we've talked about everything so far through the lens of the Raptors. Anything on the Pistons game? We went into overtime. We had an incredible showing from Porzingis, which we've kind of touched on. I feel like we should touch on it a little bit, but we've been talking for a while here, so I'll forgive you if you just want to move on.
I would just say, it was fun. It ended up being a very fun game. Just
in hindsight.
More because we won. Obviously,
Yes.
Way less fun if we lose that game. But this Pistons thing is legit fun now. Never, does all of NBA Twitter watch a Celtics Pistons game? But you're watching everybody talk about the Celtics and the Pistons and what's going on. And if it was a real don't embarrass us, please, Celtics. And they kind of did. But they ended up winning, and we got some fun moments. And, that's really all there was to it.
Joe, I could feel the eyes of the NBA online sphere on us during that game. Did you feel any of that, or did you have any other takeaways from the Pistons game?
It's just such a relief we won.
Yeah.
It's just relief. It's interesting how they often talk about like our championship teams. Like they don't feel so much joy as relief when they win. So maybe that Pistons game was like some of the best prep we could have. It was a big game. It was a big game. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to tune in for the Pistons Raptors game tomorrow. No joke. Well, maybe like it's like people start tuning in to like they started watching when the Celtics were down 20 in the third quarter, and that's what we'll be doing if it's close for Toronto.
For sure. Yeah, the battle for the bottom of the barrel. But so we're going to wrap up here on the upcoming schedule. But before that, we're going to get to a quick and very spicy iteration of the Schadenfreude report.
Schadenfreude. The Sixers. Schadenfreude. The Lakers. Schadenfreude.
The Heat.
Schadenfreude.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Schadenfreude.
Warriors.
Schadenfreude.
Take it away, Jake. Cook.
I'm good at this. Being petty. Like, can I find, like, when I'm watching a game, I'm always trying to find an angle for why I want a team to win or lose. Like, how does this help the Celtics? How does this not help the Celtics? And Sixers Rockets today was a tricky one. Like, more so I wanted the Sixers to lose. Obviously, that's good for the standings. But the Ime Udoka element, it kind of felt like a bit of a win-win or lose-lose, depending on which way you look at it. But since the Rockets went 8-3 to start the season, and everybody wanted to hand Ime Udoka the Coach of the Year award, they what has Brad Stevens done? They let the best coach since Red Auerbach out the door. Since that moment, the Rockets are 9-11. Maybe not, not saying that's symbolic of anything. The fact that they're 9-11, but sub 500. They were.
Don't get me.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave that one alone. But 8-3, 11 games into the season is like exactly the type of record the Wizards were 8-3 2 years ago and ended up winning like 32 games. The Jazz were like 12-4 to start last season. Now below 500, they brought in a bunch of like massive talent upgrades. All their young guys got older, so it was like they should be better regardless of who the coach is, just because of who they brought in with like Jeff Green and Fred VanVleet and their young guys getting older. And now they're 9-11 in their last 20, sub 500. Can't win on the road. And maybe Ime Udoka isn't the best coach to ever walk the earth. And maybe Joe Mazzulla is actually pretty good and was the architect of the Rob Williams defense after all. Just saying it's possible.
It's probable. I don't know. Joe, anything? Any thoughts?
I'm still stuck on the
9-11
record. and just how deep I go into this.
Yeah, back away slowly.
Yeah. Cut the mic.
Maybe it's something to earmark for future Schadenfreude reports. I still think like a 9-11 record, like over 20 games, is probably not that bad for Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I happy to put them on the list. Just got a comment from Nathaniel in the chat. I'm just a bit confused about which team Nathaniel supports.
He's
Could
a
he just
Lakers
confirm?
fan. Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah. He's actually in here
Gotcha.
relatively often.
Yeah.
He's actually a regular listener. Him and Viam have a budding rivalry. Some kind of bet about someone having to buy a jersey, but it's not looking good for the Lakers.
No, just for anyone listening to the audio podcast later, the majority of listeners, Nathaniel in the chat is an avid Lakers supporter, and we thank him for his engagement. Please like the stream, Nathaniel, and everyone else while you're here. 14th of January, Jake and Joe, is when the Rockets visit the Celtics, which is coming up. That's 16 days from now? Yeah. And that's going to be Ime Udoka back in the TD Garden for the first time since all this shit went down.
Tribute video, maybe.
Oh my. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I can just see the KG one.
Yeah.
Should we clip that for social media? Will he or won't he get a tribute video? I mean, I suppose the obvious question is like, what will the reaction be? Because
That's a good question.
I mean, it's going to be boos, right? Because
I would think so.
It's you led us nearly to the promised land. You took us to the finals. You, in a lot of ways, shifted the culture and the mindset within some of our players who really needed that shift at that point in their lives and in their careers. And then you went out for cigarettes and never came back. And and just to put it bluntly, you from what I understand, sexually assaulted a female member of the Celtics staff, which is unforgivable behavior in any facet, in any industry, in any sense. So you betrayed everyone, and so it's going to be a negative reaction, right? I don't think I'm saying anything new here.
I mean, I'm going to be interested. I would be probably booing if I was at the game, but I'm hateful and spiteful. That's me.
Yeah, me too.
As everybody knows from on the podcast.
It's
exciting.
We don't know what he actually did. It's such a confusing situation. This is like a scare.
Had to have been terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that we should be building a case for forgiveness for him. And it obviously had to have been terrible given how good of a coach he was at that time, and would have obviously been a difficult decision to let him go. And yet it was the right decision, clearly. I don't think we can call that into question. And maybe it's so long ago that we shouldn't even be having this conversation. But the reaction is, I think, rightfully and justifiably going to be negative. I hope it is. I hope we beat them, and I hope that we can circle back on this for a future segment of the Schadenfreude report, because
we'll destroy them, dude. Joe is going to be so hyped for this game. He's heard all of it. He was going back and reading Gary Washburn articles from 7 years ago about taking too many 3-pointers. You think he isn't thinking about how much everybody's said it was a mistake to make him the coach, and Ime Udoka was the best thing since the toaster was invented. He's going to be ready to roll.
Anything else, guys, before we wrap up? It's been a good time. It's been a good time on this podcast. It's amazing, festive, jolly Christmas road trip. The team looks amazing despite that Warriors game. Comeback, wavering a little bit, and yet the home record remains perfect. But fluctuating emotions, I think, from the Celtics fan perspective, as far as confidence in the team and their wavering approach to dominating teams well below 500. Anything else you guys want to wrap up on before we call it a night here?
I'm all good. Let's just go beat the Spurs like a normal, really good team.
Yeah. Can we have a normal blowout?
Let's get back to it. I mean, I wonder if JT will play. We'll see. This ankle thing. I wouldn't actually hate him taking one more game off, but I would be very surprised if he misses the next one. So I'm guessing we have a full team. Let's get out of there by the midway through the third quarter.
Feels like all the superstars want their shot at Wemby this year because of all the hype he's getting. So, I'd be very surprised if JT didn't play. But all right, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like the stream if you haven't already, if you're watching us live or later, even if you're on Spotify, listening well after the fact, log on to YouTube, First to the Floor, like the stream, subscribe, share it with your friends, etc. Happy New Year. We'll be back sometime in early 2024. Jake, Joe, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celtics.
I love